So I never thought I would see the day. Not only are the Everett Elks unavailable here, they've lost their franchise once again, but the Moncton Tigers have done the same. So now we need a new franchise. We have the Kamloops Colts, and they're going to be taking over here. But we have to win this team a Stanley Cup. But there is a couple changes you might notice. Immediately, we're not full of 0 overall players. We just have the lowest available free agents. But you know what? These guys aren't going to be sticking on the team long, because now we have to spin this wheel. And what is this wheel going to give us? Well, it's going to give us an NHL team. We're going to be starting with the Florida Panthers, and we're going to be selecting one player that's returning to the team that drafted them. And when it comes to the Florida Panthers, it's actually a pretty easy selection. Now, looking at the Florida Panthers, obviously they got some great players. They got Barkov here, drafted by the Florida Panthers. They got Zach Hyman, drafted by the Panthers. Mackenzie Weegar, Michael Matheson. They got Vincent Trocheck. Every single player on this team right here was drafted by the Florida Panthers. And we have to select one player that's returning to their draft team. And who is that player going to be? Well, we're going to be starting off with Zach Hyman. So I can't just select any player from the Florida Panthers. It has to be a player that's returning to the team, and Zach Hyman is definitely that guy for us. However, we're going to be adding more than one player to start this video off, because for once, stick on the ice is actually learn from things that happened in the past, and if we have a really bad team, then the game's going to crash no matter what. We're moving on over to the Calgary Flames next. This is another easy selection, and this selection is actually a bit ironic, because we're going to be selecting somebody who's currently on the Florida Panthers. Who's that going to be? I was going to go with Matthew Tkachuk, but Adam Fox also would be a good selection. So yeah, do we go with Adam Fox or do we go with Matthew Tkachuk here? I'm taking it back. Matthew Tkachuk, we're not drafting you. We're going to bring Adam Fox onto the team. So we've got Adam Fox, we've got Zach Hyman, but I want to bring one more player. And on top of adding 3 players before we head into season number 1 here, you know what else I'm doing? Removing teams that we've already landed on. So we're going to be getting different teams throughout this entire video, and we won't be landing on the Vancouver Canucks 6 different times. Like I never thought I would see the day. Stick on the ice learning from his mistakes. It's a wild thing to see. Hopefully Nashville was cooking when it came to the drafting department. So the Nashville Predators are going to be the next team we're selecting from here. Who do they have when it comes to drafting? Well, they drafted Kevin Fiala, they drafted Matthias Ekholm, they drafted Seth Jones, but of all these guys right here, I think we got to go with Kevin Fiala. He's going to be a great sniper to add to the team here alongside Zach Hyman. These are 2 great goal scorers. This is definitely a solid start for our team. So this is the team that we're going to be starting with. Of course, the most notable players, we're going to have Zach Hyman and Kevin Fiala on that first line. And then when it comes to the defense, Adam Fox is going to be leading the way. Right now, the goaltending situation is definitely not looking too good. A 57 overall and a 56. But you know what? I think we might be able to pick up the odd win this season. So with that being said, let's go simulate the season, and hopefully we get through the entire season. And while the season simulates here, are you part of the 69% people that aren't subbed to the channel? If you are, you should change that right now, because we're trying to hit 70k by the end of the month. Now, it's safe to say season number 1 was an absolute disaster here. We're dead last in the entire league, a 9-67-6 record. You know what? I'm not overly surprised at this. We have a really bad team here, the lowest overall free agents, but we do have 3 really good players, and they've definitely helped the team a lot. Also, I feel like this is the perfect time to mention that I took out the Seattle Kraken, seeing as they've been in the league the shortest amount of time, and the Vegas Golden Knights, they're going to consist of all players that were not drafted. So Artemi Panarin is going to be on this team, Sergei Bobrovsky is going to be on this team. All players that have been undrafted are on the Vegas Golden Knights now. And then of course the odd player who actually was drafted by Vegas. So Adam Fox, what were you up to this season? Pretty solid from you, 73 points here, 8 goals, 65 assists. Zach Hyman, you're going to have a decent year as well, 62 points. Well, Kevin Fiala, you're going to round out the top 3 with 60 points here. When it comes to our goaltending numbers, obviously these aren't going to look good, but a 450 and a 523 is actually a bit better than I thought it would be. So season number 1's about to be wrapped up here, and it looks like it's going to be capped off with the Boston Bruins winning the Stanley Cup, taking the Vegas Golden Knights down in a 5-game series. So with season number 1 complete, let's spin that wheel again. So we've already added 3 elite players to the team. It's time for us to add a 4th. Which team are we going to be off to next? The Colorado Avalanche. Unfortunately, we're not going to be getting an elite goaltender here, but we are going to be bringing on a pretty solid player. Now, of course, the Colorado Avalanche, an amazing team. Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, but all those guys are currently on the team. Even Gabriel Landeskog is still on the team. But you know who's technically not on the team anymore? Bo Byram. So we could add him to the team, but we could also add Ryan O'Reilly, a St. Louis legend. But you know what? I think I'm going to pass up on this St. Louis legend, and this is a very bad decision. But you know what? Bo Byram and Adam Fox together, that's a pretty solid first defensive pairing. So we have our number 1 pairing, which is going to feature Bo Byram and Adam Fox here. They're going to be a great defensive tandem for us. However, the rest of the tandems here still not looking the best. Like, we don't even have the best Bouchard. So it looks like we finally have our first big trade of the video. That's going to see Zellweger and Gaucher over to the Anaheim Ducks, and they're going to be picking up Joe Pavelski. Does that make any sense for Anaheim? Absolutely not. But then again, this is a completely different timeline, and Anaheim's honestly not that bad right now. Now, not much of a surprise, the Kamloops Colts are going to be one of the worst teams in the entire league, but Anaheim, what was the point of making that trade? 23rd in the entire league. You really traded away 2 young players in order to finish 23rd in the entire league. I don't know what you guys are cooking up over there, but it's certainly not it. Adam Fox, a decent season from you, 79 points. Not quite a point a game, but I'll definitely take it. Ken Fiala, Zach Hyman, Bo Byram. The rest of you guys are looking pretty solid. However, Bo Byram, I actually was expecting a bit more here. You're playing top pairing minutes. You should be performing better than this. You know what? I don't really care what your performance was in an 11-win season. I'm going to worry about it once we're in a 50-win season and you're not stepping up in the playoffs. Then I'm going to have an issue. Meanwhile, the Buffalo Sabres, they're somehow going to win the Stanley Cup, taking down the Winnipeg Jets in a 5-game series. Buffalo, I was unfamiliar with your drafting ability. I guess it's pretty solid. If Buffalo's winning the Stanley Cup, they must have done a decent job drafting. We're going to be moving on to our next team here, the Arizona Coyotes. Not feeling too confident with this one. Or the Utah Hockey Club, Utah Yetis, whatever you want to call them. I mean, I guess it has to be Arizona Coyotes because technically Utah hasn't drafted anyone. So yeah. Same difference. Now, Arizona, I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not too familiar with your drafting, but you know what? You got Jacob Chikrin here. Aiden Hill's also here. Dylan Strome. You've actually done a pretty solid job drafting. You've just kept none of these guys on your team, but you know what? Out of all the selections here, we're going with Aiden Hill because we definitely need a goaltender for the future. At an 86 overall, he can definitely be the guy. So the forward core and defensive core might be looking the same here, but our biggest change is going to be coming in between the pipes here. We're going to see Aiden Hill, an 86 overall. He's going to be a big difference to this team, and I think we could potentially be a 15, maybe even 20 win team this season because yeah, this is like a 30 overall jump from what we had before, so that's definitely big moves for us. Okay, Anaheim, I don't really know what you're cooking up here, but a bunch of young players. John Gibson over to the San Jose Sharks for Joe Pavelski, and I think that's Pius Suter. Yeah, that's a very interesting trade. Didn't work out for you last time. Let's see what happens this time around though. So the Kamloops Colts are going to see a lot more success this season. We're dead last still, but a 21-54-7 record is definitely something to be proud of, especially since Aiden Hill is looking absolutely phenomenal here. I'm not too worried about the scoring, but Adam Fox, a great season from you. It was a great season from the top 4 guys across the board here, but Aiden Hill, I'm really interested in what your numbers are looking like. 18 wins, 6 shutouts, a 9-11 and a 357. This man had 18 wins and 6 of them were shutouts. 33% of his wins were because of shutouts. So I'm definitely happy with that selection here. Jacob Chikrin, yeah, he would have been a great defenseman, but Aiden Hill's locked in right now. He's looking absolutely phenomenal, and we're definitely going to be able to win with him. Speaking of winning, the Anaheim Ducks, they're going to win the Stanley Cup, and Joe Pavelski, I'm happy to say you're going to retire with a Stanley Cup. So Aiden Hill, the only issue with that season is that's the standard. I need you to play like that for the rest of this video. Moving right on over to our next spin, that's going to see us selecting from the Winnipeg Jets. So the Winnipeg Jets are going to be the next team we're selecting from, and I think Jacob Trouba is going to be one of the best options here because there's not really too many players returning to the Winnipeg Jets that are elite players. Trouba would be great, but Patrick Laine would also be great. We already have enough snipers on this team, so yeah, I think we're going to be sticking with Jacob Trouba. I mean, Evander Kane wouldn't be too bad, although he is coming from the Atlanta Thrashers. Technically, that's the Winnipeg Jets, but yeah, same difference here. We are going to go with Jacob Trouba. He'd be a great defenseman for the team, provide some more depth here. So I think once we get later in this video, defense is going to be the big thing that separates us. Also, Jacob Trouba can throw some elbows. I mean, like, there is that too. So half our defensive core is set here. That's going to be Bo Byram, Adam Fox, Jacob Trouba. 3 more defensemen are going to round it out here. However, we do have one major problem right now. We have 2 forwards on this team. So yeah, we got to start bringing in some elite forwards, and then that's going to change the direction that this team's headed. Because right now, we're not really headed for too much. Now, unfortunately, Jacob Trouba's elbow throwing ability is not really helping us too much when it comes to wins because we're only finishing with 21 once again here. This team didn't really see too much improvement, but am I really surprised at that? Not really. We didn't really bring too much offensive firepower to the team, but then again, Jacob Trouba, 51 points here. That's 51 more than I was expecting. He actually turned out pretty well for us. I mean, granted, he is an 85 overall. Obviously, he was going to help this team a bit, but I was not expecting 51 points from him. Meanwhile, when it comes to the goaltending numbers for Aiden Hill, he took a massive step back here. Let's face it, last season was a fluke. This man picked up 6 shutouts and 18 wins. That's not going to happen every single year. And you know what else is going to happen every year? Anaheim winning the Stanley Cup, because the Boston Bruins are going to be doing that once again here, taking the Dallas Stars down in a 7-game series. So we know what one of the big weaknesses for this team is. We're not scoring enough goals here, so we have to pick up an elite goal scorer. Are we going to be getting one of those from the New Jersey Devils? I don't think so, but you actually might be surprised. Now, we might not be getting a superstar player, but Sharon Govich would be a good enough player for us, an 85 overall. However, we could go with Adam Larson. That would round out the right side defense. He's an 85 overall, a good defensive defenseman. That would be a nice pickup. But as I said, we need forwards here. So Sharon Govich, I'm going to pass up on you. We're taking Blake Coleman. Now we have an entire forward line here. That's going to be Blake Coleman, Kevin Fiala, and Zach Hyman. But the one thing that we're desperately missing, a bottom nine. Yeah, we're missing that. But we're also missing an elite playmaker. We need somebody to feed guys like Kevin Fiala and Zach Hyman. If we don't have that, we don't have too much for this team. But you know what, Blake Coleman, you're definitely going to be an upgrade here. We're going from like a 67 overall player to an 85. So yeah, that's a massive jump, but it's still not going to be enough here. So when it comes to adding players for Kamloops, ideally every single season we're going to be a bit better because we're adding better players to the team. Now explain to me why we only had 16 wins this season. Kamloops Colts, 16 wins. This is beyond ridiculous. This team got better. I mean, the offense production definitely took a step back. Zach Hyman only 69 points here. Adam Fox 67. Kevin Fiala 63. But you know what? We should be better than this. Jacob Trouba 32 points. I don't even know what you're doing out there. If you're not going to score goals, throw some elbows. Help the team a little bit here. Aiden Hill 16 wins, 2 shutouts. This team was just a massive disappointment. We should have been a lot better than what our record showed. Meanwhile, the Anaheim Ducks, Stanley Cup champions once again. But no, a season like this, never going to happen again. That's a stick on the ice statement right there. A season like this will never happen again. From here on out, we're getting better every year. So what am I expecting heading into this season? Probably only 5 wins. Tage Thompson, welcome to the team. Not too much considerations going into this selection. I already know who we're adding. Now, of course, when you land on a team like the St. Louis Blues, it's only superstars here. Alex Pietrangelo, Robert Thomas, Tage Thompson, Vince Dunn, Jordan Kyrou. Look at all these legends we could select from. But you know what? We need an elite forward here that's returning to their drafted team, and that's going to be Tage Thompson. Alex Pietrangelo, you'd be fantastic for the defense here, but we need some more help offensively, and Tage Thompson, you're going to bring that to our team. Now, Tage Thompson might not be bringing a lot of playmaking abilities to the team here, but you know what he is going to bring? Goal scoring. And as long as we can score goals, we're going to be in a good position here. We're starting to work on our second line. That's going to be led by Blake Coleman here. I feel like the team's heading in the right direction, but we do need some playmakers, and we got to get some pretty quick here. I don't know why I'm acting like I'm not the guy making the decisions. Like, I could easily bring an 82 overall playmaker to the team, and then we would have one. But nope, I want to go with the power forwards. I want to go with the snipers. Those are the guys I want to bring to the team right now. Now, who would have seen this coming? Joe Pavelski involved in another trade here, but this time he's off to the Florida Panthers, and he's pushing to win another Stanley Cup. And with him on Florida, I think they have a pretty good shot. Now, I have absolutely nothing to say whatsoever. We added Tage Thompson to the team. I made a stick on the ice statement. What happened here? 13 wins. A 13-61-8 record. When I make a stick on the ice statement, you have to perform. We didn't do that. We didn't do that in the slightest here. We got absolutely smoked when it mattered most. Yeah, Adam Fox, Hyman, Tage Thompson. I don't care about any of these numbers right here. Aiden Hill, I don't care about these numbers. They were absolutely abysmal. This team absolutely sucked this season. The Edmonton Oilers are Stanley Cup champions. What happened here? Like, what really happened? We added an 88 overall to the team, replaced a 60 overall player, and we got significantly worse. I'm speechless. Like, plain and simple, we can't have seasons like that. Every single season we have to get better here. The LA Kings are actually going to be a decent team to select from here. So you know how I've been making a big deal about us needing a playmaker? Well, we still need one. So who am I going to select here? Tyler Toffoli, 87 overall Tyler Toffoli. Actually, I'm taking that back. We're going with Eric Chernak. We need a good defensive defenseman on this team, and Eric Chernak, he's going to provide that for the team. It doesn't really help us too much here, but you know what? Once we get late into those simulations, we're going to need somebody to play some great defense, and that's what Eric Chernak's going to provide for us. So for this season, we're going to see Jacob Trouba on the left side, but once we add another defenseman to the team, he's going to move down to the third pairing. I want Chernak playing more minutes than him just because he's a better defensive defenseman, and we need a lockdown defenseman on that second pairing. So for this season, this is what we're going to be rocking with. You better win at least 20 games this season. We have had back-to-back disappointing seasons. If we finish with less than 10 wins this season, we're going to have an issue. Now, if we were going to be making the playoffs, I'd be a bit concerned here because Tampa just acquired Ryan McDonough and Max Pacioretty, 2 massive players for them. But you know what? We don't have to worry about making the postseason. And it turns out that's not going to be the only big deal here. Joe Pavelski, he's off to the greatest franchise of all time in the St. Louis Blues. St. Louis might be giving up some great prospects here, but you know what? Joe Pavelski's that guy. Okay, so Eric Chernak, you might be the most valuable player in the NHL here. Where did we finish? Okay, we were last once again, but we were tied for last with the San Jose Sharks, both of us having 63 points. Chicago only had 64. So yeah, we had a massive jump from last season, and now we can actually compete with the worst teams in the entire league. We can't compete with the best yet, but we can somehow compete with the worst, such as Chicago and San Jose. And with us being that good, who's going to lead the way here? Well, of course, it's going to be the elite goal scorer in Zach Hyman, and then of course the St. Louis legend in Tage Thompson. We also got Kevin Fiala up here. All 3 of these guys having a positive plus minus. That's a great sign for the future. And Aiden Hill, where are your numbers looking like. A massive step up from last season, a 909 save percentage, and that's pretty good considering we basically don't have a bottom 6 right now. But you know what? It's still not good enough to get into the postseason, but I'm happy with what the team's looking like. The Colorado Avalanche are finally going to win a Stanley Cup here, and of course, the team that's going to fall in the Stanley Cup final, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Why am I not surprised? I wouldn't be surprised if Toronto was up 3-0 in this series and still lost, because for some reason, they just don't show up when it matters most. But I can't waste a bunch of time ripping on the Toronto Maple Leafs. We do that every single video. Are we going to be landing on Toronto? It doesn't look like it. We're off to Detroit. Yeah, so you guys remember how I brought Eric Chernak to the team, and that was our last right defenseman? Well, Phil Peronic, he would have been nice. 88 overall, he's got some X factors, so we're not going to be able to select him. Nyquist, I guess he could be a good player for us, but that's another sniper that we don't really need here. Peter Mrazek, I think we're going to go with you. We bring in a backup goaltender that's an 88 overall. That's actually not that bad of a selection. Basically, I just don't really want Tyler Bertuzzi here. I don't want Hronek because we already have enough right defensemen. And Nyquist, I don't need any more snipers. So we're going with Peter Mrazek here. He's going to be the backup. We have an 86 overall and an 84. That's a pretty good tandem. But yeah, this is kind of a controversial decision, I'm not going to lie. Because Nyquist has an 85 overall, that could be the move. So from here on out, we got our two goaltenders. Aiden Hill's going to be the starter. Peter Mrazek's going to be backing him up. These two guys are going to be able to win us enough games. We actually might not be dead last this season. Now, this might be the most interesting trade that we've seen all video. Of course, Joe Pavelski's going to be traded once again, but he's traded for Jacob Markstrom. So yeah, I guess Florida's going to be rocking Spencer Knight as their goaltender from here on out. That's a very interesting move. We'll see how it works out for them. And it looks like that won't be the only move here because Brett Burns and Granlund, both of them are off to Nashville. So I have some great news and I got some bad news. The bad news is we weren't quite as good this season. The good news, we were somehow better than the San Jose Sharks. A 29, 45, and 8 record, second last in the entire league. I have no clue how. I guess it was the goaltending because San Jose, boy, did you guys suck. You picked up Jacob Markstrom and your goaltending was still this bad. You got no excuses. Like, how'd you finish below the Kamloops Colts? We have Adam Fox here. He's great. Tage Thompson. Like, we have a handful of great players here, but we also have an abysmal bottom 6. I guess it was the two goaltenders here that weren't even that great. Aiden Hill, Peter Mrazek, you guys were all right. The save percentage is 905 for both of you, but the goals against, how is this not dead last in the entire league? The San Jose Sharks are just a complete dumpster fire. You know who isn't a dumpster fire? The Vegas Golden Knights. It looks like the undrafted players are finally going to find a way to win the Stanley Cup, and they're taking down my biggest ops now, the Washington Capitals. Now, why are the Washington Capitals now my biggest ops? Well, I have just learned that this team has purchased Cap Friendly. That is a site I use regularly for looking at players' salaries and looking at team salary caps. The Washington Capitals have recently purchased Cap Friendly, and it is no longer going to be available to the public after free agency. So the Washington Capitals organization, you are now public enemy number 1. Like, I have literally spent hours of my life on Cap Friendly, just looking at players' salary cap hits, trying to manage the salary cap. What could a team potentially do? Ain't no way we immediately get the Washington Capitals after I'm making this speech. But you know what? I already know who we're bringing to the team. Unfortunately, he is another sniper, but he's going to be great for us. His name? Andre Burakovsky. Like, I've literally just spent hours sitting in class, going through Cap Friendly, and trying to figure out, oh, does this move make sense for this team? Does this move make sense for this team? And then the Washington Capitals are going to go ahead, purchase that website, and I can no longer use it. We're actually going to go with Philip Forsberg here. The original plan was to pick up Andre Burakovsky, I'm not going to lie, but you know what? Philip Forsberg, I'm not passing up on him, a 90 overall. But yeah, Washington, you're public enemy number 1 from here on out. I can't believe you're doing this to me. So the top line's looking fantastic here. Tage Thompson, Kevin Fiala, Philip Forsberg, and then on the second line, Zach Hyman and Blake Coleman. That's a great second line so far. We just need to add a right winger for these guys. But yeah, I have not gone over the fact that Washington is going to be buying Cap Friendly, and then it's not going to be available for public use anymore. So he's back once again, and he's involved in a trade. It looks like Joe Pavelski's heading back over to the Anaheim Ducks. And we're also going to see another interesting trade here. Brady Shea's going over to the Devils, and Blake Coleman from the New Jersey Devils is off to the Rangers. So I haven't removed the players from their respective teams. I just copied the player DNA. Now things just keep getting worse here. Kamloops last in the entire league once again. Philip Forsberg, he was great, 103 points. But who's going to win the Stanley Cup? My biggest ops, the Washington Capitals. The second I started hating on this team, not only did we have to select a player from them, but we have to watch them win the Stanley Cup. That just doesn't sit right with me. Like, the Washington Capitals don't get to take away the best website for NHL fans and then proceed to win a Stanley Cup. That's not how it works around here. If you're going to buy Cap Friendly, you're not allowed to see success for the next 25 years. That's a fair trade-off. You take away what NHL fans love, we take away what you love, and that's winning games. Also, we're selecting from the Boston Bruins next. I thought I should point that out. So who's going to be returning to the Boston Bruins? Well, Dougie Hamilton, he would be a great selection. But you know what? We already have enough right defensemen. But you know we do need a guy like Tyler Seguin, an elite playmaker for us, 85 overall. Tyler Seguin, you're the guy we've desperately been missing. So we officially have two forward lines here. Tage Thompson, Kevin Fiala, Philip Forsberg on the top line. And then we're going to see Zach Hyman, Tyler Seguin, and Blake Coleman. I want Blake Coleman on the left side though, because he's a center / left wing. So yeah, that just makes a lot more sense. When it comes to the defense, we already know what that's looking like. Trouba, you're going to continue to play on the left side. And our goaltenders, of course, it's going to be Aiden Hill and Peter Mrazek. I don't think this team's going to be making the playoffs just yet, but I know for a fact that we're going to be competing and we're going to be right there. But based on how the last couple years have gone, more than likely Washington's going to be winning another Stanley Cup, and they're going to win one that they don't deserve. Now, we were just outside the postseason, a 41-35-6 record. That's going to have us just a couple points out of the playoffs, 3 to be exact. This team just needs to be a bit better, and then we're going to see some postseason action. But even if we're making the postseason, I think we're a long ways away from actually winning a Stanley Cup. We still don't have a bottom 6 here. We still don't have a third pairing defense. But you know what? We got some great pieces to begin with. Philip Forsberg, Adam Fox, Tage Thompson, all those guys are looking elite so far. The goaltending's not looking too bad here. Aiden Hill, a 909 to 316. If we improve the defense just a bit more, I think we'll be making the playoffs. But it has to be the defense. I don't think another forward's going to cut it. Meanwhile, when it comes to the Stanley Cup final, we're going to see the Dallas Stars matching up against the Boston Bruins, and Dallas is going to be taking it home. So let's go get ourselves an elite defenseman. Who are we going to be bringing to the team here? I don't even know why I have the Seattle Kraken on this wheel. I just thought about that right now. Seattle just kind of doesn't exist in this universe. So yeah, we're just going to ignore this selection. Not enough time has passed for Seattle to draft somebody and then them trade that player away. Because what, they've only been a franchise for 3 years now? So just ignore this spin. I really didn't notice till this exact moment that I had Seattle on this wheel. But you know what? We're going to get a great spin here. We're landing on the New York Rangers. Brady Shea, I think you're going to be the guy we bring to the team because you are a left defenseman and you would help a lot. Now, I said we were going to bring Brady Shea to the team here, and honestly, it makes the most sense. A great left defenseman, 86 overall, but that means we have to pass up on JT Miller, a fantastic two-way forward, a 91 overall, and Busnevich, an elite playmaker. But you know what? I actually think we have to do this. We got to round out that defense. Brady Shea, you're the guy for us. Am I making the wrong decision here? Probably, and there's no question about that, but we do need another defenseman, and Brady Shea, you're going to be that guy. Now, it's been an entire 4 seconds since I selected Brady Shea. Yeah, I've gone back on that. JT Miller, you're going to be joining the team here. Brady Shea, we're not bringing you here yet. We'll bring in some other left defensemen. I mean, we're not going to bring you in at all. JT Miller, you're going to be the guy we need here. I can't pass up on a 91 overall forward. I just can't. So after emphasizing how important a defenseman would be for us, what did I go ahead and do? Brought JT Miller to the team. I don't know what I was yapping about, but I can't pass up on a guy like JT Miller. I mean, Brady Shea would have been incredible for this team. He would have been helping us round out our defensive core here, allowing Jacob Trouba to drop down to the third pairing. But you know what? I believe in the future we'll get a better defenseman than Brady Shea, so I'm going to hold out for now. When it comes to finding a player that's a higher overall than JT Miller, that certainly won't be easy with how many teams we have left. Now, I know for a fact that if we had Brady Shea on this team, we would have made the playoffs, but we don't have Brady Shea, so we're 26th in the entire league with a 39-39-4 record. Yeah, it's not what we were looking for here, but then again, forwards really don't improve the team that much. Like, yeah, we brought a 91 overall in JT Miller, but if we brought an 85 overall defenseman to the team, we would have made the playoffs. Defensemen just have a much bigger impact on how many wins you get. I've learned that from experience here. Aiden Hill, 28 wins, a 900 save percentage. That's just not going to cut it here. I need it to be better. I need you to be posting Peter Mrazek numbers. A 917, a 285. If we had Peter Mrazek as our starter, we actually might have made the playoffs here. But you know what? Can't do anything about it. The Stanley Cup champions are going to be the Anaheim Ducks. Low-key, Anaheim has done an amazing job drafting players, and they've done an amazing job drafting defensemen. So Philadelphia Flyers fans, you better be excited. Jamie Drysdale is going to turn into a superstar because every defenseman from Anaheim always turns out to be a star player. Well, maybe not every defenseman, but man, if you look at that defensive core that they've drafted throughout the years, it would be elite if they had every single one of those defensemen still on their team. Like Shea Theodore, Hampus Lindholm, Brandon Montour. Then you would have had Jamie Drysdale there. That would have been your top 4. And then of course you still have Josh Manson, Mint Yukov. There's a couple other guys I haven't mentioned, but yeah, that's your defensive core. Pretty solid. But let's spend less time hyping up Anaheim's defensive core and let's just land on it here. Unfortunately, that's not what we're getting. We're getting the Islanders instead. And if I can recall from building this roster right here, we're not getting any superstars from the Islanders. Yeah, so you remember how I said there's not really any superstars returning to the Islanders? There is this guy right here, Devon Taves, 85 overall. So that's pretty nice. I mean, they also have Jared Spurgeon here. They actually have a handful of guys. John Taffer. Okay, what was I yapping about? Yeah, that's an L stick on the ice moment. Just completely forgetting about all these great players right here. Ryan Strome's even returning to the team. Yeah, I completely misjudged this team. team. They've done a great job drafting as well. Now the defense is looking absolutely unstoppable here. Devon Toews, Adam Fox, Chernak, Bo Byram, and then Trouba on that third pairing. I do think there is a way that we make it into the playoffs, although we basically don't have a bottom six besides Blake Coleman. Defense means so much in this game. I think we'll somehow be able to get in, but I could also be completely wrong and we might finish dead last, so let's just see what happens. Now this is just a wild trade to consider. Patrick Kane to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Yeah, that team just got a bit tougher. And then on top of that, Ryan O'Reilly to the Anaheim Ducks. Colorado's selling here. I don't know how I feel about that one. Okay, I guess we're not done here. We have another trade coming in. The Blues are going to be trading 3 of their prospects away and they're going to be picking up Matt Duchene. So Colorado, they're just embracing the tank. Now we're on the brink of making the playoffs here. Like, we're a good team. 15th in the entire league, a 41, 31, and 10 record. We're 1 player away. One more player and this team's going to be making the postseason. JT Miller, not too much more you can do here. You, Tage Thompson, Philip Forsberg, absolutely incredible. The rest of the guys here, I'd like to see them step up. Bo Byram, you didn't have a negative plus minus. It was sitting at 0, so I can definitely live with that. Was the goaltending just a bit mid? Yes, it was. Peter Mrazek, if you're slightly better, we're in the playoffs right now. But you know what? We just have to live with what our numbers were. The Devils are going to be making the Stanley Cup final, and they're going to take down the Vegas Golden Knights. It's time for us to spin the wheel one more time and then see some postseason action. So what I would like to see here is an elite forward. Can we get that? The Carolina Hurricanes, I'm assuming they must have done a great job drafting over the past, because you know what? Look at what their team looks like. I know for a fact Elias Lindholm's going to be an option. Justin Falk's going to be an option. So let's try to figure out what we're going to be doing here. Do we bring in another defenseman or do we bring in a forward? So we're landing on the Carolina Hurricanes here. We got some pretty solid options. Noah Hannafin's actually another option here that I completely forgot about, and that's the option that we're actually going to go with. Now the defensive core is rounded out here. All we have to do from here on out is bring in some forwards. Yeah, like I just completely forgot about Noah Hannafin. I was talking about Justin Falk. I was talking about Elias Lindholm. But you know what? Noah Hannafin, he's going to be good for us. Now the offensive core might not be there yet, but the defense is set. Adam Fox, Devon Toews, Bo Byram, Eric Chernak, Jacob Trouba, Noah Hannafin. This defense is going to be locked down. Nobody's getting past that defense. However, players are definitely going to be able to get past our bottom 6 because that's chopped right now. But eventually we will add some players to this bottom 6 and then we'll be hoisting a Stanley Cup. Well, it's finally happened. It might have taken us a long time, but here we are, 10th in the entire league. We're making the postseason. The defense is going to be making the difference here, and now we can make some big things happen. Philip Forsberg's leading the way. Then we got JT Miller, Adam Fox, Tage Thompson. Just everyone on this team is performing. The top guys, they showed up when it mattered most. Devon Toews, you're -2. I'm a bit concerned about that, seeing as you are playing top line minutes here. You're playing with the top 2 forward lines. You probably should have better numbers than a -2. But you know what? I'm not going to worry about it because Aiden Hill's standing on his head right now. 42 wins, 2 shouts, a 905 and a 311. I need him to keep this up, and he's got to be locked in for this first round matchup. We have the Colorado Avalanche. They're not going to be going easy on us. So Colorado's been a tough series so far. We won the first 2 games, but we're dropping the next 2 after that. Game 5 is going to be a big one. Someone's taking the lead in the series, and it looks like it's going to be the Kamloops Colts. Can we close out here in game number 6 and advance to the second round? Yes, we can. We're moving on. So we took down the Colorado Avalanche, and now we're going to be moving on to the second round here, and that's going to see us taking on the Dallas Stars. Dallas has made some deep runs so far in this video, so you already know they're going to be a good team. And so far, Dallas has had our number. Although we're taking game number 1, we're dropping 3 straight after that, so we have to head to Simcast for the elimination game. So we're facing elimination. Now it's time for Kamloops to step up here. No goals are going to be scored in the first period. Dallas is taking over in the second. This game's all over. We're dropping it 4-2. That second period really just cost us the game. We can't be giving up 4 straight goals here. So I don't know what's more disappointing, the fact that we lost in the postseason or Toronto won the Stanley Cup here. I can't process seeing Toronto succeed, but you know what? I'd rather see Toronto win the Stanley Cup over Washington, because right now Washington, they're the ops. I can't stand that franchise right now. You can't take Cap Friendly away from me and then see success. That's not how it works. Also, I have seen a lot of people on Twitter calling Cap Friendly a sellout. You guys do realize they probably got like 8 figures. Like, you're looking at 10 million plus for that website. If the Washington Capitals think it's so valuable that they're willing to buy it, you gotta be looking at least 8 figures. But you know what? Enough talking about the Washington Capitals. I don't care about them anymore. Tampa though, I care about them a little bit because that's who we're selecting from next. So I'm really familiar with a lot of the Tampa draft picks. Kucherov, Vasilevsky, Hedman, Brain Point, Steven Stamkos, Connor Ingram, of course. But the guy we're gonna be selecting, Alex Killorn, because yeah, Tampa's been able to keep a lot of the guys around. Sorelli's still here. Joseph's not anymore. I mean, Drouin's not anymore. But yeah, like the top players on Tampa, they're sticking around. But I mean, 84 overall Alex Killorn, it really could be a lot worse. So Alex Killorn is going to be joining the team here, and he's going to be helping the third line. He's teaming up with Blake Coleman here. Once we have a complete third line, I think then we can actually compete for a Stanley Cup, because I think 60 overalls in the fourth line could probably cut it. So we got ourselves a very interesting deal here. It's going 1-for-1. Tomas Hertl from Matthias Ekholm. Yeah, let's see see how it works out for both teams. I mean, San Jose, you're getting a great defenseman. Nashville, you're going to get a great player in Tomas Hertl. Let's just see how this works out. It's a very interesting deal. 1-for-1. You don't see those types of trades very often. And of course, it's not going to be the only deal because Anaheim, Joe Pavelski is once again going to be joining your team. So the boys are going to be finishing in the exact same spot as last season, 10th with a 45-30-7 record. So we actually had a better record this time around, so we can celebrate that. When it comes to the scoring, Philip Forsberg, he's going to be leading the way here, 87 points. JT Miller's looking fantastic. I mean, the scoring across the board is looking really solid here. We all knew that was going to be happening. And Aiden Hill, your numbers not quite as good as they used to be. Only 29 wins this season, 3 shots, a 910, a 292. A 910 certainly something I can be happy about, but a 292, I'm not sure if that's going to cut it once the postseason comes around. We already know we're going to have some tough matchups, and we have a real tough one in the first round, the Vegas Golden Knights. But even though Vegas is a great team, so are we. We're going to be taking the first 2 games. They might be taking the next 2 after that, but game 5 is going to be the real important one in this series. Who's going to be taking the lead? It looks like it's going to be us. Can we close this out in game 6? Or are we going to be headed to game 7? It looks like we're going to complete the massive upset here. We're moving on to the second round. So we completed that huge upset over the Vegas Golden Knights, but now we have an even tougher matchup in the second round, the St. Louis Blues. They got Tage Thompson, they got Robert Thomas, they got Jordan Kyrou, they got Tarasenko, and more importantly, they got Jordan Binnington. And when that man's locked in, no pucks getting past him. Now this is a very familiar sight. We won game 1 2-1 once again here, and then we proceed to lose 3 straight after that. We're facing elimination in game 5, so we got to go period by period. So St. Louis is a much better team than what their record shows so far, but they're going to be picking up the first 2 goals of the game. They have a 4-1 lead entering the third period. Tage Thompson's going to be picking up 2 goals here, and then he's picking up a third goal, but he's actually going to be scoring for the Kamloops Colts. Yeah, Tage Thompson's locking in during the second period, and in the third period, what's going to be happening here? Bardashev's going to pick up a goal, Tyler Seguin's going to pick up a goal, but all that matters is we're falling 5-2. I also just realized I didn't turn the face cam on. Great work, me. So that's going to be another postseason exit, but what makes this even worse is St. Louis made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final and then fell to Tampa Bay. St. Louis, you can't be folding like that. You were a 42-win team, so by rights, you probably shouldn't have made it to the Stanley Cup final, but if you're going to make it that far, you got to close it out. But you know what? I think this team's one player away from actually sitting at the top of the league. We're going to have a complete top 9 next season. The fourth line's going to be a bit weak, but you know what? The top guy's going to carry the way here. We have 3 great defensive pairings we can run. We have 2 solid goaltenders. I think we're just a couple forwards away, and I think this next forward's going to make the difference. So this is going to be a big time wheel spin for us. Who are we going to be adding to the team? It's going to land on the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa's got some good players, like a handful of good players. Now looking at this Ottawa Senators team, there's a ton of great players we could add. Mark Stone, Zibanejad, Erik Karlsson, all 3 of these guys come to mind, but what we really need right now is a forward. So Mark Stone or Zibanejad, we're going with Mark Stone just because he's 1 overall higher. I'll take the 90 overall over the 89. Does it really make that much of a difference? Probably not, but you know what? Mark Stone, we could use your help here. So we have 3 forward lines that we can run here. Yeah, the fourth line's still looking a bit weak. With the top 9 that we do have, we should be able to win, especially when we have a defense like this, just no weaknesses whatsoever. And then when it comes to our goaltending, Aiden Hill, you've been able to win a Stanley Cup before. It's time for you to do it again. So the Kamloops Colts are looking a lot better this season. We're going to finish 5th in the entire league with a 48-25-9 record. I think we can officially compete with the best in the entire league. I think we might have the best offense. It's going to be the second best offense in the entire league. The defense still needs a bit of work here, but you know what? We're headed in the right direction. And to be fair, the goals against is going to be looking a bit bad because our fourth line still isn't looking that great, but you know what? The top performers on this team are definitely showing out. Phil Forsberg, 41 goals. JT Miller, he's got 39 goals. Tage Thompson, he's picking up 35. We got some big time goal scorers, and on top of the big time goal scorers, we got some mid goaltending. Aiden Hill, a 907 is just not going to cut it, especially when you have a goals against above 3. I need a goals against below 3 if we're winning a Stanley Cup here. But you know what? You can turn it up in the postseason, and you better be ready to turn it up. We have the Edmonton Oilers in the first round. You already know for a fact this team's going to be scoring goals. Now, outside of game number 1, we've been locked in, winning 3 straight games against the Edmonton Oilers, and can we make it 4 straight here and move on to the second round? Yes, we can. We've been playing some elite defense here. I think this team's finally got it figured out. So if we can take down the Edmonton Oilers, I fully believe that we can beat anyone. The LA Kings just swept the Vegas Golden Knights, and Vegas is one of the best teams in the entire league, so we better be prepared. So it's actually pretty easy to beat the LA Kings. Just allow 1 goal. If we only allow 1 goal, we're going to be winning the game. The 2 games we've lost, we allowed 5 goals and 4 goals. So if the defense locks in, then we'll be able to get past the LA Kings. We might be allowing 4 goals in game number 5 here, but somehow we're going to be able to steal that one. Can we win back-to-back games here and move on to the next round? It looks like we're going to be able to. So we got past the LA Kings, and now we have our toughest task yet. It's going to be the Winnipeg Jets. They've been looking absolutely elite so far, but you know what? You're in the conference finals. Every team's going to be competitive from here on out. Now it looks like reality has finally caught up to the Kamloops Colts here. The fourth line being weak is really holding this team back, and now we're down 3-1 in the series. So we got to spark a massive comeback, and it's got to to start in game number 5. So here we go. Kamloops, can you make the big comeback here? It's got to start right now. Okay, it's got to start like literally right now. We're entering the third period and we're yet to score a goal here. Luckily, Winnipeg hasn't scored one yet, so the third period might be deciding this one. Who's going to be showing up? It looks like in the third period, Philip Forsberg would find a way to get us on the board here, but a Jacob Trouba goal with 21 seconds left is going to be the winner, and we're falling in the conference finals. So that was a tough loss to the Winnipeg Jets, but the fact that we made it to the conference finals is definitely a great sign for what's to come here. We're going to keep on adding some forwards to the team, and then we'll be bringing home a Stanley Cup sooner than later. But I will say the goaltending is starting to be a bit of a question mark for me, because offensively we were absolutely dominant in all the games we played, no issues whatsoever. The goaltending on the other hand just wasn't good enough here. I mean, Aiden Hill, you had a 909, a 276, so I probably shouldn't put that much blame on you, but I don't know, defensively we just weren't good enough once we had to play a great team. Now there's not too many teams left on this wheel, but out of the teams remaining there are a lot of great options. The San Jose Sharks will probably give us a decent enough forward, so I'm pretty sure I already know who we're bringing to the team when it comes from the San Jose Sharks. It was a guy that was just recently traded, never mind Joe Pavelski. You're the guy we're bringing to the team. I was thinking Tomas Hertl, but you know what, Joe Pavelski is definitely the option here. Joe Pavelski is definitely the guy we're going with here, no question about it. We're getting this man a Stanley Cup before he retires. So I think Joe Pavelski's just been the guy we've been missing all along here. 88 overall, he's got a superstar X factor, a great veteran presence for this team, and this man knows how to step up when it matters most. The Kamloops Colts have been missing a guy like Joe Pavelski, and now that he's on our team, we're ready to win. Okay, it looks like San Jose's Joe Pavelski's gonna get traded, and so is Dylan DeMello, and Kevin LeBanc, and Matt Nito. Literally half of San Jose's roster is gonna get traded to Anaheim, and Anaheim just said screw prospects and John Gibson, we're winning now. So the Kamloops Colts might not have been as good this season, 6th in the entire league, but you know what? I think we're actually a bit more competitive this season. Does that logic make any sense? I don't really think so, but you know what? I have to use some made up logic because Joe Pavelski's on this team, and clearly he's gonna be the difference for us. Like scoring wise, I think we're more well balanced this season. Like look at all the guys above 50 points, look at everyone above 60 points here, so the scoring depth is definitely better here. When it comes to the goaltending, that's looking a bit better as well. Peter Mrazek, you were absolutely incredible the entire season here, 922 and a 235. By rights, you should probably be the starter, but we got to rock with Aiden Hill here. He's been the number one guy since day number one here, so we're going to keep on relying on him. And he also was able to beat the Edmonton Oilers in the last postseason, so let's see if he can do it again. Now this is exactly why we rely on Aiden Hill, a clean sweep over the Edmonton Oilers. Kamloops just proved that they're one of the best in the entire league. So we took out the Edmonton Oilers in a clean sweep, and we got all the momentum here, and we're going to need that momentum because now we have the Colorado Avalanche up next. After stealing the first 2 games and having a 6-game winning streak, reality setting in for Kamloops. We can't go 16-0 here. We're going to be dropping the next 2. Are we going to be dropping 3 straight? Or are we going to respond in game number 5 here? It looks like it's going to be 3 straight losses, so now we're headed to game 6 elimination. So we got game 6 elimination here. The Kamloops Colts taking on the Colorado Avalanche. Nathan McKinnon's picking up the first goal of the game, but Philip Forsberg and Kevin Fiala are going to be responding in the second period, so the third period is going to be a big one here. Niels Almond's going to be picking up a massive goal here, and he's going to send this one to overtime, and in overtime, Tyson Jost is going to find a way to end this series. He's picking up the OT winner. But you know what? That's another season in the books here. Tyler Seguin, you had 10 points in 10 games. I don't even want to know who wins the Stanley Cup. I just want to add another player to this team and win a Stanley Cup here. Because if we're being completely honest with ourselves, the Kamloops Colts should be Stanley Cup champions right now. The Edmonton Oilers are going to have a ton of great options for us to select from, but out of all the options that Edmonton's going to have, we're going with Taylor Hall. We need a playmaker on this team. We can't rely on Tyler Seguin to be our lone playmaker. So more than likely, I think we're going to be bringing Taylor Hall to the team here because we could use another playmaker. Where are some of the other options available? Jeff Petrie, but we don't need another defenseman. So yeah, I think we're going to go with Taylor Hall here. Jordan Eberle, he would be a good sniper for us, but we don't need more snipers. We need more playmakers. So Taylor Hall, no question about it. You're the guy we're going with. So we're going to make some questionable moves when it comes to setting up the lines. Taylor Hall, I want you on the second line alongside Tage Thompson and Mark Stone because I want you guys to have a playmaker. And then when it comes to the third line, it's going to be Kevin Fiala, Tyler Seguin, and Zach Hyman. The top line might not have a playmaker here, but you know what? I think they're going to be able to work through that. We're one NHL player away from completing this team right here, and honestly, if you look at this team, we are good enough to win a Stanley Cup. We probably should have won one over the past 2 simulations, but unfortunately we weren't able to do that. But you know what? Times are changing, and it's time for the Kamloops Colts to take over. Then again, I've also said that for the past 5 seasons now, eventually this team will win. When's that going to be? Couldn't tell you. But eventually we will be Stanley Cup champs. So for the first time in Kamloops Colts history, first in the entire NHL, they're winning the President's Trophy with a 47, 23, and 12 record. Those OT losses definitely came in hand here. Our offense wasn't necessarily the best in the entire league here, but our defense was absolutely unstoppable, the #1 defense in the entire NHL. Aiden Hill, I need you to perform like this in the postseason. If you put up numbers like this in the postseason, we're going to be winning a Stanley Cup here. Okay, the offense does need to step up though. 66 points can cannot be leading the team. We do have some great depth scoring here. But yeah, 66 points can't be the best for this team. Aiden Hill, keep doing your thing. But Peter Mrazek, do we go with Peter Mrazek for the postseason? We're changing things up here. Aiden Hill, we've tried to run with you in the postseason twice. It hasn't really worked out for us. Winnipeg, we're taking you on the first round. But yeah, Peter Mrazek, you're going to be our number one. So we're turning off auto-rotate goaltenders, and we're going to set Peter Mrazek as our number one. Is this the right move? Probably not. But Peter Mrazek, in the past 3 simulations, you've looked absolutely elite. So we got to try it at least once. Like right now, Peter Mrazek, he's the hot goaltender. We have a 3-1 series lead, and we're going to close it out in game number 5 here. We're off to the second round. Peter Mrazek's numbers haven't necessarily been the greatest so far, but you know what? We're off to the second round, so I'll take it. So Peter Mrazek, you looked pretty solid in round number 1, but I need you to up that dominance of yours. You got to step up against the Vegas Golden Knights. I need you to be a bit better. So I'm not going to try to gas up Peter Mrazek because, I mean, in 2 of these games, he allowed 4 goals, but we do have a 3-1 series lead. So as long as Peter Mrazek's in the net and we win games, I'm not going to have a problem with this team. But once again, we're going to be allowing 4 goals. Are we going to be allowing 4 in back-to-back games here? No, we aren't, but we are going to be moving on to the conference finals, and we have the Edmonton Oilers. We got to keep the offense going here, and we got all the momentum. A 3-1 series lead against the Oilers. Can we close it out here? Yes, we can. We're in the Stanley Cup final. Peter Mrazek's been the missing piece all along. So we've made it to the Stanley Cup final. Peter Mrazek, I need you to win us 4 more games here. You're going to be able to do it. We won game number 1, 7-0. We won game number 4, 6-1, but we dropped 2 games here. Game 5 is going to be a massive one. Who's taking the lead in the series? We're winning that one in overtime. Game 6, we can win the Stanley Cup if we take it. We got to go through Simcast for this one. We got to go period by period. I need to watch this team win the Stanley Cup. So I need a Peter Mrazek masterclass here. Can he lock it down? Tage Thompson's picking up the first goal here. We have a 5-2 lead entering the third period. We're going to close out in a 7-3 victory. Peter Mrazek, I should have never doubted you. You've been the guy since day number 1. I mean, technically you're the second goaltender we got, but you were the guy that won us this Stanley Cup. But the real heroes of this team, JT Miller, Joe Pavelski, Philip Forsberg, these guys stepped up. Tage Thompson, he had 12 goals. The big time players made some big time plays. Meanwhile, Peter Mrazek, you posted a 919 to 244. So yeah, I think you were the guy all along. I thought Aiden Hill was going to be our Stanley Cup winning goaltender. He's done it once before, but you know what? We just had to change things up for the postseason run. Peter Mrazek's looked incredible the past couple simulations, and when push came to shove, he was the guy that won us the Stanley Cup. Shout out to Peter Mrazek. Also, shout out to Joe Pavelski, finally winning a Stanley Cup. He got it with the Kamloops Colts. This guy deserves it more than anyone. I hope you enjoy your retirement. Too bad Dallas couldn't have got you a Stanley Cup. You deserved it.